Uvaženi gledalci, želim vam dobar dan. Na kanalu ste Atlas televizije i pratite Atlas VIP. Ja sam Milica Minić i u narednih sat razgovarat ću sa bivšim američkim diplomatom koji ima zavidno profesionalno iskustvo. Svjedočio je padu bugarskog komunističkog režima, izbornom porazu Franje Tuđmana u Hrvatskoj i padu Slobodana Miloševića u Srbiji. U Crnoj Gori trenutno boravi s namjerom da promoviše knjigu Kad ovacije utihnu, i u njoj govori o ulozi Sjedinjenih Američkih Država na Balkanu tokom posljednje decenije proteklog vijeka. Riječ je o posljednjem američkom ambasadoru u Jugoslaviji i dakle imam zadovoljstvo da vam predstavim gospodina Williama Montgomerya. Sir, thank you very much first for talking to Atlas Television and giving us an opportunity to talk to you about the topics and some subjects that you emphasized in a book that has just been published.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. The pleasure is mine. The first question for you would be one of the topics that you mentioned in this book. You say that one of the major problems of us people living in the Balkans is mentality formed during the period of socialism. Could you tell us, from the perspective of a diplomat, how does our mentality reflects in terms of our profession? For example, I refer to journalists or workers in mine in Nikšić.
If you have about 4 or 5 hours, I'll give you the longer explanation. But in short, I see a lot of differences in how the average person in this region reacts to events rather than someone, say, from the United States. One example is that a lot of what we do in the United States is what I would call merit-based, where you are expected to go out on your own merit and get a job. To succeed at it or not. Here, it's a lot based on visa. And the mindset of people is whether they need to get a visa, a job, or a doctor's appointment. You use visa rather than normal channels.
So that means that right now you stand behind a statement we can find in your book that in terms of professional improvement, one Montenegrin or Serb, for an example, needs strong connections and, what is very important, political influence, and he has to be politically active to improve without implying his own on her or his personal and professional kind of, yes.
I think that's right, but I would go even further. I think if you look at your profession, that one of the real pillars of our democracy in the United States isn't just a free press, because as I've come to learn, a free press can be irresponsible or sometimes behave in undemocratic ways even, but investigative journalism. It's finding a story and having journalists pursue that story and uncovering more facts about it, keeping it alive. It doesn't happen in this region at all. I describe in my book how we tried to foster this approach. And when I was in Belgrade, we offered to 5 different news outlets, 4 newspapers and 1 television station, a 1-year free person. We paid the money for them to hire somebody. We sent these people to the United States for training in investigative journalism. And when they came back to work, we paid their salaries for a year. We made no other obligations on them. We didn't say what they had to cover at all. Just do investigative journalism. Try to get at the real heart of stories, problems. And after 1 full year, there was absolutely no success at all, because the mindset here does not encourage journalists to do that. It encourages journalists to report on events that happened, period, end of story, and not to look beyond that.
And do you believe right now that we have conditions to do our job in a free manner?
I think you still have a lot of challenges. I think the influence of the political parties in the news media in this entire region is far far too much.
You mentioned our politicians. In a book, you state that our Prime Minister, Milo Đukanović, is the most capable politician in the Balkans. What does his ability implies? In concrete example.
Well, what I mean by that is if you look at the different regimes that he has flourished in, has survived in, going from the communism of Yugoslavia to the Milosevic regime, to the system in place now, to cooperation at times with the United States and other Western powers, he has managed to work his way through a series of landmines and survive in almost a unique way in this region. And to give you what I think is absolutely the best example is when he and his party decided that they wanted independence from Montenegro. This was not a popular decision in the West. I'm talking now around 2000, 2001. There was a euphoria about the changes that had taken place in Serbia. Serbia was getting a lot of attention. There was a feeling among the West that it'd be far better if Serbia and Montenegro stayed together, which is not something that he wanted. But he saw the momentum for this. And so he realized that it was not opportune to fight this directly, but to try to shape the process in a way that when events change, when times change, that he would have an opportunity for the referendum. And when that happened, he took a huge gamble, accepted all the terms of the EU representatives who were here monitoring the process, was successful, and transformed entirely the European approach to Montenegro from one of suspicion, one trying to keep it with Serbia, to accepting Montenegrin independence. And so, to me, this is a classic case study of a successful politician. Now, as I said, you can disagree with his approach, with his beliefs, with his philosophy, but I think in terms of capabilities, he's demonstrated he's the top.
But do you believe that he would be as successful as he is if the international community, which is something that you also mentioned in your book, didn't look through his fingers during the process of smuggling cigars over Montenegro while we were under the sanctions of the UN?
Well, the reality is I was a big participant, if you will, in all the events of that time. And if you recall, first of all, he, taking great courage, opposed Milosevic. At that time, one of our major foreign policy goals was to bring down the regime of Slobodan Milosevic, which we thought was really endangering the stability of the entire region, doing great harm. So that was our goal. We saw Đukanović as somebody who was standing up to Milosevic and paying a heavy price for it. We know, for example, that at any time, Milosevic, using the army, which was under his control, could have come in, arrested Đukanović, brought down the government, etc. He was facing a real political threat, but also a personal threat to his own safety and security. And because he opposed Milosevic, we know that Milosevic was not allowing Montenegro to have its fair share of funding from this union of Serbia and Montenegro, of Yugoslavia. And so he was in a terrible shape. We also knew that for a variety of reasons, that none of the Western countries that were supporting him had enough money to provide the sort of support that he needed to survive, whether it was to better equip the police force, which was under his control, to be sort of a buffer to help provide some level of defense for himself against the army or against organized demonstrations caused by Milosevic, etc. So we knew he had to raise money. We knew that the government was using this traffic in cigarettes to help raise money. We all knew it very well. And we permitted it to go on. We said nothing about it because we thought he had to survive, that Montenegro had to survive. And without funding, it may not have survived. The Italians were part of the group of countries that were helping to figure out how to bring down Milosevic, and therefore were part in knowing what the
So that is a
Djukanovic
kind
government was
of
doing.
excuse